Hey guys, welcome back to Big Shoulders, the Chicago podcast. I'm your host, Kyle. Today, I wanted to jump in on, man, I've gone really deep on Chicago visit videos on YouTube, and some are better than others, but I'm blown away at how many people are going to Chicago without doing much, if any, research, spending almost their entirety of their time downtown. Not that there's anything wrong with downtown. Downtown's great, and I'll give you reasons why. But downtown is one part of a massive, interesting, culturally rich city. And again, short of you're just being in town for a couple of days, I would really encourage you to explore downtown, explore, Millennium Park, Magnificent Mile, all of those places. But if you're there, 3, 4, 5 days or more, there's so much more you can explore. And I'm going to share that with you today. I want to tackle a few tourist traps first. This is something I don't think comes up enough. And yeah, I'm reminded of this European couple, young people that were in Chicago, never left downtown, and the only two places that made their end video in terms of uh, eateries that they visited were the Starbucks Reserve Roastery and the Corner Bakery. Yeah, I know. My head was exploding. But in terms of places I think people think they need to go when they come to Chicago that aren't necessarily what you think they are, I want to start with Navy Pier. I in no disparaging disrespect at all to Navy Pier. Navy Pier is great. It's right there out on the lake. If you are getting out there, you kind of walk to the end. You turn around, you have incredible views of the Chicago skyline, great views of the city from the Ferris wheel, the giant Ferris wheel there at Navy Pier. It is a great place to walk out to, stretch your legs. If you have kids, you have the Chicago Children's Museum out there. Um, and of course, yeah, the kids will love the Ferris wheel. But if you are mostly a foodie, if you're an adult, you don't have kids, I don't know how much of your time is really worth Navy Pier, unless you want to get some amazing, shots of the skyline of the city. You can go out there, and it's great, if you just want to go for a walk and fresh air. As Chicagoans, we're not afraid to walk. I love walking around the city. I love how walkable my city is, but a lot of you are coming from places that are not walkable and make the mistake of do things like, renting cars. You don't need to rent a car in Chicago. You get your CTA pass. If you're landing at O'Hare, you get your CTA pass. You take the blue line into the city. If you are landing at Midway, you get your CTA pass and you take the orange line into the city. Do not, unless you're in a big hurry to meet somebody for dinner or to check in wherever you're staying, maybe then get rideshare from the airport. But if not, you're cheating yourself out of a great cultural experience of riding the rails, of riding CTA from the point of your landing. So if you're not in a hurry, ride the rails like a local. Get yourself, you've got 3, 5, month-long passes from CTA. But Navy Pier, great views. Again, Children's Museum there if you have kids. Great opportunity to take some beautiful shots of the city while visiting Chicago. Beyond that, nothing to write home about. And not to be disparaging of the eateries that are out there, but it's nothing that personally grabs me. And as a Chicagoan, as someone who is really serious about food and being able to walk around and really experiencing the city, it's maybe on your seventh or eighth trip to Chicago, maybe spend time at Navy Pier. And again, if you don't have kids, short of the children's museum, the Ferris wheel, that's great family fun stuff to do. I just don't know how much there is beyond that. Um, the Starbucks Reserve Roastery. I love Starbucks. I appreciate Starbucks. I have nothing against Starbucks. I drink it myself, but the Starbucks Reserve Roastery, it can get busy really early in the day. It is expensive. And you're in the city of Chicago. You are in a city that is one of the greatest food cities not just in the country, but in the world. People travel from around the world to experience our gastro scene, our food scene, and to spend your time at Starbucks Roastery. Okay, you're just gonna pay more for the drinks you already get. They do have a cool bar there where you can get like a coffee martini. You can also get a coffee martini at every decent restaurant in the city. So again, it's fun, I guess, but there are other places in Chicago I think that would be worth your time. You have great mom and pop Chicago coffee houses and cafes throughout the city. You have everything from you of the Perfect Cup, which is on the far north side of Chicago, just off of the Damon Brown line. On the west side, you have Standing Passengers, which is one of my favorite places on the west side. You go in there, they have old school video games. It kind of feels like you're almost like hanging out in somebody's rec room. You have several places called Sip and Savor on the south side, which I love too. The coffee is solid. The environment, music, the people, can't beat it. Um, I also realize that a lot of you may not have a local to draw from when planning your trip to Chicago. And again, I want to avail myself to anyone and everyone who is either planning their next trip to Chicago and really maybe needs some help from a local, or someone who has maybe never gone and is planning their first trip. I am happy to guide you guys and to make sure you avoid tourist traps, to make sure you're not downtown for the entire trip. You want to get onto those rails. You know, we have this incredible CTA L train that takes you through so much of the city and that's what Chicago is. We're a city of neighborhoods, and that sounds redundant because isn't every city a city of neighborhoods? Yes, but Chicago has there's a unique flair, a unique style, a unique vibe to every neighborhood in Chicago. You can literally, once you get your CTA pass when you land, you can pick almost any line on any stop on any line within the city, and hop off and find a really cool cafe, a really cool restaurant, a really cool dive bar, a beautiful park, beautiful neighborhoods just to walk through and stretch your legs and get fresh air. That's the beauty of Chicago. And it always pains me when I hear that, again, short of you only being in Chicago for a few days, people largely confining their Chicago experience just to downtown. So try not to do that. Again, you can follow me and feel free to message me on Instagram. You can find me at King Sing. That's KYNGSYNG on Instagram. Feel free to message me if you have questions about places to stay, restaurants, hotel versus doing a Verbo or an Airbnb. I'm interested in X. Should I do this? Should I go there? Please consider me a resource. I love doing this stuff. I've planned quite a few trips for quite a few people now at this point, and I'm doing really well with it. People have been pleased with the results. So yeah, Starbucks Reserve Roastery, it's cool, but it's again, get into the meat and potatoes of Chicago. There's a place downtown that's sort of hidden away right into it's sort of a semi alley, and I want to make sure I get the address here. Hero Coffee and Bagel Bar. It's right off of East Jackson in Chicago, and I found it by accident just being in downtown Chicago in 2021. It's in this little sort of hideaway off of Jackson. Great coffee. They sort of like bagel breakfast sandwiches. Those are the places you want to find versus going to a place that your drinks are going to be $10 plus. Not to say you can't get expensive coffee drinks in Chicago, but you're visiting Chicago. You're visiting someplace new or a place that you've been to before and want to continue to explore, because Chicago obviously can't be covered in one trip or even 4 trips. It's such a deep, dense, interesting city. Uh, Go to the places you've never been. Hit the mom and pop places, the places that are homegrown, that are run by the people of the city that you are exploring and enjoying. But Hero Coffee right downtown is pretty great. Michigan Avenue, or what we call the Magnificent Mile in downtown, is fantastic. You have a lot of great shopping. You have great walking, of course. There's tons of great food. You have downtown the Chicago Architectural Boat Tour, which I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do. Chicago is a city with a rich, rich architectural history and many different styles of architecture. Whether we have the different skyscrapers downtown, we have the birthplace of the skyscraper, going all the way out to the west at the end of the Green Line in Oak Park, which is it's a treasure trove of Frank Lloyd Wright structures, from his home and studio to the Unity Temple to a Roby House, and just a whole bunch of other structures and homes that Frank Lloyd Wright built. If you are an architecture person, or even if you're not, become one. Get on that architectural boat tour downtown. Take the CTA out to Oak Park. Do those Frank Lloyd Wright tours. They're a lot of fun. They're really interesting. Oak Park is a beautiful downtown with a lot of great restaurants as well. But Michigan Avenue. So yeah, architectural boat tours. You have incredible shopping. Now, unless you're going there specifically for high-end shopping, we do have Xenia, we do have Burberry, we have those things, and that's all great. But you also have a lot of shops that you will find in other major cities, Macy's, Nordstrom, and so forth. I would hit places, again, it's Chicago, it's food. You would want to hit institutions like the Billy Goat Tavern. There's one of my favorite pizza joints in the city is downtown, La Briola Cafe, and they crush both styles of Chicago pizza. The Chicago tavern style pizza, which is our thin crust that we eat 98, 99% of the time. And then, of course, the world famous Chicago deep dish they do as well. I think they crush both. I am more on the tavern style side of things. Not that I'm against deep dish. I just grew up eating more tavern style, and you should too, especially if this is your first time hearing about it. It annoys me to no end that people only think about deep dish when they come to Chicago, when they should also know about tavern style, which is thin crust, cut into squares, absolutely delicious. Um, Michigan Avenue, or Magnificent Mile. Let me see here. Harry Caray's Italian Steakhouse. If you are a Cubs fan or you're a sports fan, obviously you know who Harry Caray is. He was the legendary announcer for the Chicago Cubs for decades. He has an Italian steakhouse downtown that is still excellent. You can get an amazing steak there. They also do a dish called Chicken Vesuvio, which was created in Chicago, and is also delicious. I'm not a huge chicken guy, but this is one dish that I, as a beef guy, as a steak guy, would highly recommend that you try. The Chicken Vesuvio. Also downtown, and worth checking out, you have the amazing Millennium Park, and Maggie Daley Park for the kids downtown. Beautiful. Millennium Park is, of course, home to the Cloudgate sculpture. Cloudgate is the official name for what everyone calls the bean. And occasionally, one or two of you actually learn the name and use it, which we appreciate. We as Chicagoans love it when people go the extra mile and Google a few things. And of course, the Cloudgate, the bean, is a huge, sort of Instagrammable photo spot for visitors, for families. And of course, down there, you've got, like I said, you've got Magnificent Mile, you've got restaurants, you've got shopping. It's just great walking around. Chicago has this incredible lakefront downtown, which, is also worth your time on the days that you're not shopping to explore. You have Grant Park, uh, so much going on. Also, downtown, if you really want to soak up some great culture, we have amazing museums. My favorite one being the Art Institute of Chicago. I found this one listed as a tourist trap for Chicago, and I assure you, the Art Institute of Chicago is no tourist trap. It is a hub of absolute beautiful art and culture, and it's worth your time. We have Caravaggio, we have just incredible works of art housed at the Chicago Institute of Art. Um, Also, the Chicago Cultural Center, which is another beautiful spot there, which again, it's the Cultural Center of Chicago. A lot of great history there. The third largest Tiffany Dome, I believe, in the world is housed there. It's another spot. Again, be prepared to bring your walking shoes because you will do so much walking in Chicago. And that's kind of the beauty of it. All these things. And one of the advantages of downtown is you have everything close together. You have Millennium Park, you have the Magnificent Mile, you have the Art Institute, you have Chicago Architectural Boat Tours, you have the Chicago Cultural Center. What else do we have here? Grant Park, which obviously there's tons of stuff going on there from sort of the south shore all the way to the north shore of the lakefront. Don't hesitate to rent one of the rentable bikes and just ride or walk the lakefront. We have beaches. A lot of people are surprised, but it's summertime, summertime shy. It's one of the best experiences you'll ever have if you get a chance to visit our city in the summer. But we have North Avenue Beach, we have Oak Street Beach, we have so many great beaches, and people are surprised by that. People don't realize just how large Lake Michigan is. But yeah, we have beachfront property here in Chicago. So if you want to go grab some rays, you can do that too. What else do we have here? Oh, one of my favorite spots, Lou Mitchell's, which is on Jackson. Lou Mitchell's is a 100-plus-year-old diner, and it still absolutely smacks. It's one of the most delicious places I've ever been. There are great diners across the country, but Lou Mitchell's is still one of my absolute favorites. Again, if you're staying downtown or if you're only here for a few days, Lou Mitchell's, it's hard to beat. It's delicious. Uh, some spots that I think do tend to be called tourist traps to attractions that I don't think are tourist traps, and I think you should, especially if you've never done them and you've been to Chicago many times, or if you've never been to Chicago before at all and it's your first trip. I highly recommend doing either the Sky Deck at Willis Tower, what we locals call Sears Tower, because it was Sears Tower most of its life, and we will here in Chicago continue to call it Sears Tower until we die. The Sky Deck gives you amazing views of the city from the Sears Tower or Willis Tower, sort of on the south end of downtown. But you also have 360 Chicago, which is in what has historically been called the Hancock Building, which is now called 875 North Michigan Avenue. Again, locals, it's John Hancock Building. And it's 360 Chicago, 360-degree view of Chicago from the north end of downtown. Both spots, incredible views. You get an incredible history of the city and different sort of cultural tidbits while you're there. I would recommend reserving ahead of time, depending on what time of year you're going. Spring and summer might be busier than fall and winter, but it's worth going. Like I'm a local and I enjoy going every once in a while. Like I'll forget about it, and then I'll have friends or family come in. They'll be like, "Oh, can we go?" I'm like, "Okay, fine." And then I get up there. I'm like, "This is pretty great." I sort of forget just what an amazing layout we have with downtown, our incredible skyline, the incredible views we have up there. So yeah, those are not tourist traps. Those are absolutely worth your time and your money of getting that view of Chicago and seeing 4 states from up there on a clear day. So there's that. On the south side of Chicago, there's uh, obviously the north side has the Cubs and Wrigley Field, and if you're there for several days, definitely take in a Cubs game. I come from a family of Cubs fans, and I'm an all Chicago supporter, though I am a White Sox fan. Anybody who's winning in our city, I'm for it. But I would also present to you an option of checking out a White Sox game at Sox Park, or what we call Comiskey, or what is officially called Guaranteed Rate Field. Ooh, that just rolls off the tongue. um, but yeah, I don't think we get as much love on the south side of Chicago, and we should, because we have a great team, we have a great stadium. The food is amazing. Again, you can't really get away with doing bad food in Chicago. So yes, of course, take in that Cubs game. The Cubs are known and beloved worldwide. But we have another team on the south side with a great team, again, a great stadium, fantastic food, and take in a Sox game. Just get off at 35th and Sox Park on the Red Line there and take in a game. When you're done with that, I would highly recommend heading over to a place called Rico Benny's on the south side. Rico Benny's is home to a Chicago original, once billed as one of the greatest sandwiches in the world by USA Today. It is the Italian breaded steak sandwich, Rico Benny's. RICOBENE''S. They've been around since the 40s, and they crush the food. It's so good. You have the Italian breaded steak sandwich, which I highly recommend you try, but maybe throw in a chicken Vesuvio sandwich, the eggplant parm, the chicken parm. Get one of each, bring your family with you, and just, split them. Absolutely delicious. When you're done at Rico Benny's, you can simply turn around the corner and walk right into Old Chinatown. Chicago, I am told, has probably one of the better Chinatowns in the world. And I know this because I have a whole bunch of family that are Bay Area Filipinos from San Francisco, Daly City. And San Francisco has an impressive Chinatown if you've ever been. And so to get that seal of approval from my Filipino family, based on the incredible Chinatown they have, when I took them to Rico Benny's and we turned the corner into Old Chinatown, I'm like, this is great. Old Chinatown has also, it's sort of revitalized quite a bit. It wasn't necessarily a cool spot to go to when I was a kid. And in the 90s, they developed a spot just north of Old Chinatown called New Chinatown Square, which again, it was built in the early to mid 90s. Isn't really new anymore, but it's newer. And that's absolutely great. They've got tea shops and restaurants. It's so many restaurants. Lao Sichuan, which is one of my favorite restaurants, Chinese restaurants in the world, is there, created by award-winning chef Tony Lau. Amazing stuff there. But Old Chinatown has great stuff too. Again, they've got bakeries, they've got cafes, they've got restaurants, just cool little shops where you can go in and get, different Chinese herbs and stuff like that, and buy like bulk tea and get like this homemade tea made by, this, beautiful old Chinese lady. Like it's all right there in Old Chinatown. Grab yourself a tea, grab yourself a boba, walk around with your loved one, with your family, keep walking north up into New Chinatown Square. And maybe by then, you want to get a bow or check out incredible nightlife like Nine Bar. Nine Bar is the only Blade Runner inspired lounge in the world. It is my favorite bar lounge in the city of Chicago. And I have some favorites. But on the south side, it is without a doubt Nine Bar. It's so fun. And if you're as big a fan of Blade Runner as I am, going in there, it really feels like you're walking in that, like at any moment, Harrison Ford could walk in, or Roy Batty could walk in. Amazing spot, and it's done sort of speakeasy style. So you pull up or you walk up, and it looks like you're in front of a laundromat. You walk in, and you tell them what you're there for, and they open. They go to what looks like they're about to open a dryer. They open said dryer. Instead, a wall opens up, and from there you enter Nine Bar. Pretty awesome. So yeah, just some stuff to do on the south side after the Sox game. Get some Rico Benny's, head into Chinatown, and then when it opens, hit and get some drinks at Nine Bar. Great stuff. What else do we have? This is West Side. West Side has really come up too. I don't remember. Yeah, the West Side really was not as hot as it is now when I was a kid. Uh, so many of my friends and family and I really have fallen in love with the West Side as someone who grew up south of the South Side and also spent a lot of years on the North Side. I did live for a period of time in sort of Little Italy medical district area on the West Side, which was great. But I really had been away from it for longer than I realized. And now being back there, I split my time between LA and Chicago, and the West Side of Chicago really is home now. And really having taken time from everywhere from Mr. Beef and River North, going into a place called Fulton Market, which I think a lot of you would love. Fulton Market was part of the meatpacking district historically, and now it's turned into this incredible hub for as you might guess, because of Chicago, a great hub for restaurants and bars, incredible high-rise apartments and condos. There's the Time Out Plaza or the Time Out Eatery, where you have all these different um, world cuisines that you can try. Yeah, the Fulton Market area, which is sort of like West Loop area, is home of Au Cheval, which is one of the best restaurants in the world that creates one of what I think is probably the best cheeseburger in the world, certainly in the city. That's worth trying. They also have satellite restaurants called Small Cheval throughout the city as well. I tend to hit the one on Milwaukee in Wicker Park when I'm there. I tend to be around there, Wicker Park, Bucktown area, which that's another great spot. Wicker Park and Bucktown. There's cool dive bars. There's like boutique shops, clothiers there. You have the Shy Boys, which are they're a streetwear brand out of Chicago. They do really dope stuff. I found a place called the Revel Room um, last year. I didn't even know about this place. I had family in, and we were looking to go to another bar, and the place was packed. We're like, well, we're not doing that. Just kept walking, and we found a place called the Revel Room. We went in, we got $3 old styles, and I think a few people got mixed drinks. The DJ was killer, and it was a great time. So Wicker Park and Bucktown are fun on the west side. I also really love Humboldt Park. Humboldt Park, our historically Puerto Rican neighborhood that I've talked about a lot on this show, on this channel. Um, you have just amazing little Puerto Rican cafes, places where you can get pasteles for breakfast, incredible coffee, breakfast sandwiches. Uh, there is a place, uh, uh, Jibaritos y Mas, which we have the jibarito, which is it's a Puerto Rican sandwich that, I hope I'm getting this right, was created in Chicago. It's basically pork or roast beef sort of fried up and served on a plantain that has been fried to serve as the bun. They then add lettuce, tomato, mayo, and then they put um, fresh garlic over the top of it. It is super delicious. So again, literally from Mr. Beef in River North, going through Fulton Market into West Town, where you have our great Filipino restaurants, Kasama, which is Michelin star rated, only Michelin star rated Filipino restaurant in the world. You also have great breakfast places, Uncle Mike's breakfast cafe, which is Filipino breakfast. It's so good. They start you with lugaw and they finish the meal with champurrado. So those of you that know Filipino food, it's like going to your Lola's house and she just makes, homemade food. It's that good. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Filipino food, you better learn because you're missing it. There's at least five incredible Filipino restaurants right sort of in that whole area of Noble Square, Ukrainian Village. Let's see. They're all there on the west side, at least from what I can see. Let me. So we have Subo Kitchen, which is, I guess that's a little further north. That's like near Albany Park. Let me see here. Bayanco, which is, they're not too far. Okay, they're on Montrose. Okay, that's still pretty far north side. They're pretty good. We need to get south, kids. What? Okay, hang on just a second, folks. Sorry about this. Kawayan on Milwaukee. My goodness. Pig and Fire. Uncle Mike's. Okay, yeah. Uncle Mike's is, I love Uncle Mike's. 1700 West Grand. It's mostly Filipino breakfast. They're open 6 a.m. and I believe they close at 3. They're super good. God, Google, you're really not helping me today. Yes, I'd like to discover more places. Can I discover more places? How about this? Filipino restaurants, Chicago, Ukrainian Village, because I know there's just a shit ton there, and I don't know why they're hiding them. So Kasama, obviously, which is on Winchester, it's amazing. They have, during the day, they've got sort of like this specific menu, just solid Filipino foods and heightened Filipino foods. They also have in the evening a tasting menu of more hot cuisine, HAUTE, not HOT, which you do have to reserve. Uh, and Taste the Philippines. I'm not, yeah, I'm not catching these other places on the west side like alike. But Uncle Mike's and Kansama on the west side, north, you've got Bayangko, you have Ruby's Fast Food, which is a decent. Uh, Explore Filipino food. Filipino and Mexican cuisine and culture right now, I don't think people realize, is where Irish and Italian influence was in the last century, from like 1900 to like the mid-century. It's we get these waves of cultural infusion into the United States, and Chicago is almost always on the front of that because of there's Chicago has always been a city of opportunity. We're a city that welcomes immigrants. We're a city that we're about food, and so much of the immigrant experience and just the universal human experience is through food. And that's another thing that I love about Chicago is, we don't really care where you're from. How's your food? And they bring their best, and then we all get together and we eat and we have a great time. So definitely explore the West Side. Check out any Filipino joints, Filipino fusion that you get the opportunity to check out as well. I'm trying to think here. Any other traps, really? Not really. I would not. Don't waste a whole lot of time at Starbucks Roastery. Don't waste a whole lot of time at Navy Pier. Walk the Magnificent Mile. Do those things, but make sure you're not running into stores that you could go to at home. Um, Go to places you've never heard of, mom and pop places. Try new foods. Don't uh, try to customize your food to what you think you will like. Try it as we as Chicagoans eat. Uh, think of Chicago as you're visiting a foreign country, and you wouldn't go to a foreign country and order their native food and say, "Oh, can you take the tomato off?" No, you eat it so you can experience what it is. Who knows? Maybe you'll figure out that you like tomatoes more than you thought. And the reason I tell you this is because if you've never had a Chicago style hot dog, we don't do ketchup in the city. Now, some people are more orthodox than others. You definitely don't put ketchup on a Chicago style hot dog. It's just not dressed that way, period. You can put ketchup on a hot dog otherwise. You might be hard pressed to do that because there are a lot of establishments in Chicago that simply do not carry ketchup for that reason. But we also do a really great job of developing different aiolis and sauces for our fries. Going back to Small Cheval, Au Cheval, their 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 hamburger stands, the Small Chevals, don't. I'm almost certain don't do ketchup because they serve their fries with this incredible garlic aioli. I think Chicago might single-handedly sort of be pushing people out of sort of this infantilized palate that a lot of us have developed of sort of you know fries with ketchup and chicken strips or chicken nuggets. There's so much more to food than those things. And once you've had a beautifully fried potato fry with an exquisite garlic aioli at a place like Small Cheval, you're not going to be thinking about ketchup. Trust me. And if you're at a place like Red Hot Ranch, or you're at Johnny's, or Wolfie's on the north side, or you're at was it Jimmy's Red Hots on the south side, and you get either a depression dog or a Chicago style hot dog, believe me, it's such a perfect food, a perfect food item that you're not even going to be worrying about ketchup. But yeah, so those are some do's. Again, depending on how long you're staying in the city, don't waste your time with some of those things I mentioned at the top, but do try local. Again, I am happy to be a resource to anybody and anyone who is either on their 15th trip to Chicago or on their very first one. Again, at King Sing on Instagram. That's KYNGSYNG on Instagram. And yeah, I'll be happy to set something up for you, guide you. If you love museums, you can spend your entire time downtown because all of our museums are basically in and around by the lake. You have the Shed Aquarium, you have the Field Museum, you have the Adler Planetarium, you have the Art Institute of Chicago, you have the Chicago Cultural Center. Also worth checking out the DuSable Museum, closer to the South Shore. Uh, DuSable Museum of African American History, amazing. So yeah, just because something is familiar and you know it from home doesn't mean you want to necessarily spend, because again, you can do that at home. You want to do Chicago things in Chicago, right? So yeah, if there's anything I've missed, if you're a local and you watch this, and I'm sure I've missed some things that are worth hyping, things are worth telling folks to check out, please comment below. And yeah, if you've hung on this long, please like, subscribe, share. If you know somebody who's planning a trip or has been, feel free to share this with them, and I'll be happy to set them straight. So in the meantime, you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.